All right, you guys, so today we are going to talk about carving a potato. So I got a pretty big fat potato because I'm thinking if I mess up, I've got the other half, right, instead of a small one. If you do have a couple small ones, you could do it that way too and just cut off a little bit, and that way, you know, you could use a big chunk of it because you want to be able to hold it still, and you want to be able to like be able to carve into it. So you need to have a good chunk here because you're going to carve like a 1/2 inch in. And then if you have even more room, like technically I could, if I messed up, I could carve this and still hold this bottom part. So we can use a good chunk of the potato. So make sure you have a decent knife. You don't want it to be so dull that you can't cut through anything, because that's when you're probably going to cut yourself. Here, I gotta stand up, sorry. So, there we go, see? And sometimes, like with this kind of knife, I wish I would have had my big butcher knife to cut, because sometimes using this kind of knife is not as easy because it doesn't cut all the way through. I gotta do a couple cuts. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm actually gonna rest this down on here for a second so that it sort of gets some of that juice, right? Take this off. And it like, this is not even. I don't know if you guys can see there, but it's not even. So I could come in here and just sort of trim it off. All right. So it can be any kind of potato. Like this is a yellow, like golden potato, but it can be a russet potato. It can be a little baby yellow potato. It can be a red potato. I mean, really, whatever. All right, so the thing is we are gonna take our mandala designs and we are going to put them on here. All right, so I'm just trying to like really push it down and squeeze it off. This guy I'm just gonna leave here because I may or may not need him. All right, I'm trying to get a lot of the moisture off because, and your paper towels at home are probably a little bit more absorbent than the ones at school, so that I can draw on it. Okay, so when I do my mandala, I need to make sure it's in like a quarter of a circle shape, right? So it has to be something like this, so that when I print it 4 times, it creates a circle, right? So if I were to print it 4 times, it would create a nice circle for me. So on here, and I might have to like carve this out of here. So on here, it looks like this is the nice round part here where that's a little skinnier. So what I would do here is probably come to where, actually I like this side better. I'm gonna come here, and your markers, you may have to, that might be a little too far down. See, like my marker's not showing up because my potato is really wet. So as long as you get a little bit on here, now this becomes the issue with getting your design on here, right? That looks okay. And actually, look at, I can erase it. I don't like it. If I were you guys, I would cut my potato and let it sit for like 10 minutes on something to harden up so that you could actually draw on it. I'm making just a little bit bigger here. I didn't like how small it was. Yeah, that's a good size. All right, so making it a little bit bigger. And then I'm gonna do a really simple design. I can get it, can't even show up. Okay, hold on a second here. Hold on. Okay, sorry, I grabbed a pen and a pencil just to see if this works a little bit better. So it's definitely going into the potato, but I don't know how well you guys can see. So when you do this, it's gonna create more juices. So again, sort of get those off there. So I don't even know if this pen's gonna work. Oh, maybe, we'll see. Okay, so I'm gonna do a really simple design. I'm gonna start in the middle. gonna do this. Okay, so I'm gonna have it go to the edge, and I'm gonna make it a little bit thicker. Oh yeah, this pen is working much better. I mean, not like much better where you can see everything, but at least we can see some of it, right? So I'm making mine a little thicker. And I'm gonna be honest with you, this is the first time I've ever done something like this. So this could be a total epic fail, but we'll try it, right? And then, so I have that in the middle, and then I'm actually gonna make a half of one, like a smaller one here. And again, make this a little bit thicker. So this is sort of like pumpkin carving. So I guess it's the perfect time of year to do this right now. Yeah, I'm gonna do a half of one on this side too. The reason I'm doing half of a design is because when I print it, it'll be one whole design, right? Now we want really, really simple designs because we're going to be carving them with a, and this one you can't see, I'm sorry, this side. I'm actually going to do, I'm going to see if I can do something. I'm going to see if I can do like a little teardrop here and then a little teardrop here in between. We'll see if that works out. It may be, I might have to cut them out, right? Okay, so what I would do is come on the potato and do like a 1/2 inch line down. Because we want that to be, and not super in, because I want to, I don't want to take away from my design, right? So here becomes sort of like a dangerous part. So now is where you guys really need to pay attention to what you're doing, because I'm going to hold the knife here, okay? This is not probably recommended, but I'm just holding it and I'm gently getting into where my lines are. Okay, so I'm just tracing my lines. You can also do this with a paper clip, and actually I might go get a paper clip here soon. So I'm just sort of going in here with my lines, outlining everything really gently. So I can come in here. Getting my shapes. And work on little bits at a time, and you may have to like dab it off every once in a while. Like mine was starting to get a little juicy and I couldn't see. Then I can start sort of cutting down to where that line was. Now that I have like my exact shape here, right? Just making sure I'm trying to keep up with that image and just take it off, okay? So it's okay if down at the bottom here, it's a little bit more straight and your line, you want the top part to be curved. That's why I went over that line a couple times to make sure this top part is curved here. And then this becomes the area, and I just score it a little bit. So scoring it, if you guys remember from last year with clay, it's just like making a line in your piece, right? So I have to be careful here because I don't want to go too, when I'm cutting, I don't want to go over here because that's where my design is. So I just have to be really careful with what I'm doing on this side here. And maybe I cut it into pieces, into little pieces. And I'm really, you guys, I'm really, I am not pressing hard with the knife. I am being so super gentle because I don't want to wreck my design. I don't want to cut myself. So really super gentle here. So this is where this inside part here, it's gonna get a little tricky, right? So I might have to, I'm holding my finger on the other side. And actually I'm gonna switch to like a pencil, see if I can get some of those out. See, sometimes not using anything sharp will help get the pieces out. And again, just really gently going where my lines were, Seeing if I can get this out. And I'm like testing the waters here, you guys. Get that piece out of the way here. Let's see if I can get this little guy here. So you see how I had my finger here and I went to go put it here. Never have your hand where you're cutting, where your knife is facing, okay? Let's see if I can get this guy out. So I didn't get all the way down in there, and that's okay because I only need the top area, right? So I'm gonna dab this guy off again. Hopefully you like potato smell because you can really smell it when you're doing this. So going through here, going a little deeper every time. This is very, very close to what you would be doing in school. You would just be doing it with something called linoleum, and it would be rubbery. So when you get to this point, like I'm getting to this part here where it's getting really, really thin, just like with pumpkin carving, you really need to be mindful of what you're doing. So I'm gonna split this piece in half to see if I can get it out. Split it again, see if I can get it out a little bit. You have to be careful that I'd rather push this way than push this way because I don't want my design to get hurt, right? There, look at that. Get that little guy out of there. Okay, so this isn't too bad so far. I'm actually pretty impressed. So what I'm gonna do here is just like what I did with everything else. And just continue to get it out. So every time just gently going a little bit deeper here. And I might have to come back in and fix some, and that's okay. And I'm not expecting it to be perfect. It's a potato, right? And this is gonna be the hard part, getting this guy out here. So I'm finding that taking little chunks really helps instead of trying to get big chunks out. Look at that, doesn't look too bad. Awesome. All right, so I finished carving out my piece. I just didn't have you guys watch the whole thing because I figured it would be boring. I will say, like, this little teardrop here is not the same as that one, and that's okay, all right? So this one's a little bit deeper than that, but that's what we're gonna do. So the next thing I need to do, and actually I'm not going to show you this because I need to get a better knife. I don't want to hurt myself. I need to cut off here and here, okay? So I need to cut this so that this is my stamp and it's showing. When you're doing that, be very, very careful that you don't cut off your design, but you are gonna cut here and cut here, and then you'll have your design. So I'm gonna go and do that. I need to actually go get a better knife, so I'm gonna go and do it, and then I'll come back and show you what else we're gonna do with it. All right, so I'm back. I actually went to Mrs. Paul's room in the foods and got a big butcher knife and cut it. So now I've got this, and this is what we want, because remember we're making a quarter of our circle. So now if I print it, and I print it 4 times, I should have the shape. Now here's the thing though, and I will tell you this. This one is shorter than that one, right? So it will not line up, and we're gonna be okay with that. We are gonna be okay with that because it's okay. This is our first time. We're just sort of practicing. And so like this is gonna go into here, but you know what? That could look really cool. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna let this sit out for 24 hours, or it doesn't have to be necessarily full 24 hours, but I want this potato to harden a little bit and callus up. That's what it's called. It'll get a callus on its skin. So it won't be like juicy. It's really juicy still. So it won't get juicy. And this way, when I print it, like the paint won't get smudged or anything like that. So we're just gonna let it sit out and then we'll be able to print the next day is what I would do. So even if you like carve this at night with your parents or an adult, even if you carved it at night and then you were gonna print in class the next day, that's still a good amount of time. That's like probably at least 12 hours or around there. So no worries if it's not a full 24 hours, but that's what we're gonna do with this. I'm actually going to maybe do a different design in this one just to see. So if you guys have two halves and you wanna do a different design, then try it out, right? Because then you have two different things that you could put on your final potentially with whatever you want to do. All right, you guys, I started to work on my other half of my potato and I realized that I should probably be videoing this as well because I'm going to just use my pencil for this one. So until I get to like the big areas, I'm gonna just use my pencil. So what I did is I made some lines here with my pencil. So this can be a great option if like you don't want to use a knife or adult says, no, you can't use a knife, you know, those kinds of things. So this potato is a little weird because I didn't cut it nicely, see? So I might have to fix, well, I'm gonna cut that off eventually anyway. So I've just been using my pencil and been going back and forth and making indents in here. And it's not as clean as a knife, but who cares, right? So coming in here and just making some indents, and it's gonna give it a really, just because it's not clean does not make it, doesn't mean that it's not gonna look good. It's gonna get a really organic look, which could be cool. So I've just sort of been making some lines in here. And you'll get potato on your pencil every once in a while, just sort of wipe it off. Okay. And then I did make some lines in between here. Ooh. And I am gonna take a little bit out because I want it to be like separated, right? So I can just stick my pencil down in where I made those lines and get them to come out. This area there is bugging me. Okay, finally. It's like this one little flap of potato that like wouldn't go anywhere. So you can definitely do this without a knife. And just sort of push the potato out of the way is what I'm doing. I'm like, so see how now there's some like little spaces here? And you might have to come in back and clean them up. So like my pencil gets all yucky, so I can just go like that. All right, and then what I wanted to do is I sort of wanted to make a, what's happening here? This piece is really bothering me. This actually needs to go here, right? Look at that. I think I was, yeah, actually that works out because there's a gap there and it'll be next to that. Look at, I did something, I didn't even know I was doing it correctly. So eventually, just like I did with my other potato, I would take a big butcher knife and I would cut this off, right? Because I just want this part here. But I'm thinking I would like to not make my sides smooth. All right, so I know I cut that part off there. Do you see how it's getting a little bit orangey? Because it's starting to callus up, which is awesome. So this flap here is coming off. So that might be a problem. We'll have to see. I might have to take it off for like my print and stuff like that. But I'm wondering if I might just keep it like this. The only problem is this isn't a perfect circle, right? Like this isn't exactly perfect, and that's okay. So when I print it, just like with my other one, it's not gonna line up exactly. And for some reason, for my brain, like that not lining up with that is okay, but I don't know, it's gonna look really off. So I might take this edge and make it a little bit wavy or triangular or something like that. So let me think here. I sort of had this design, right? I had this design going for me, but obviously I ran out of space. Like I don't have all of that. That's where I ended. I don't have any of this. Here, it's like this. So realistically, like this is where this is. So I ran out of space big time. So I might come in here and just make some triangles on the outside here and see if it works. So I am leaving some space in between here. I want that thickness right there. So one thing to remember is you need to end, like I'm ending on a triangle here, I need to end on a triangle here so that the edges line up. Because I don't want half of a triangle going into like nothing, right? So you just have to remember that when you're doing this. So now I can sort of just take my pencil and start chopping it up a little bit. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because like this side I really don't care about because I'm gonna cut that off, right? But I can come in here and just like with the other one, make lines where it's easier to separate and then you can get your chunks off. So I'm just pushing with my pencil on my piece here. And it doesn't have to be all the way down. Like look at, like this is down and it's okay. It's down enough. It's not like the paint's gonna get way down in there, right? So again, cutting in the middle here, sort of getting this off, ripping some of these chunks off. And you might be able to just come in here. I probably should have done this earlier, just rip it off with my fingernails. Duh, right? So I don't know what's happening here. Take that off. Okay, so pretty much, here's my design. Everything over here, and there's a little gap there, but like I said, that'll be good because then when it's right next to this, they'll have a gap just like everything else does. So we've got some triangles here. This will meet up with this, hopefully, and I've got some lines. I do like that this isn't fully carved out. It's okay to not have it fully carved out because once it calluses over, my hope is, and again, this is all sort of one big experiment, my hope is that the paint won't get in there because the potatoes calloused up and it won't leak in. So what I'm doing right now is just sort of going back into my lines and making sure look at that piece of potato won't leave me alone. Just going in here, making sure everything's how I want it to be, cleaning up. But this is a really great design and all I used was a pencil for the whole entire thing. I did not even touch my knife, okay? So you don't want to touch a knife, you don't have to. I would ask an adult if you're not wanting to cut, but you really need a big butcher knife for this. This is not safe to cut this. So you need a big butcher knife to do that. But here is my design made with a pencil.